we all get adjusted regularly. We go to a chiropractor. If you want to go to, if your transmission is broke on your car, you take your car to a paint and body shop to get it fixed. Heck no, you're going to go to the transmission guy. Hi, this is John. Thank you for stopping by Mr. Miracle Heart. Today I want to share with you a few ways in which we can take better care of that lower back. There's a muscle, there's a big muscle involved here when it comes to how safely you can do certain exercises, and also how much stress is going to be placed upon your lower back when you do those exercises. We all know the common ones, okay? Deadlifts, bent over rows, even squatting for that matter. All of those exercises, they tend to use a lot of lower back, a lot of lumbar area, when you do those exercises. The issue here becomes, how can you keep that nice little curve to that lower back? Keep it from opening up too much. How can you keep it so you have a nice, what's called lordosis in your lower back, and still do the exercise intensely enough to where you can get the most out of it for the muscles that you want to train very hard? So that muscle that affects a lot of lower back safety is your hamstrings. You see, your lower back only flexes when you bend over. It only flexes about 30 degrees. And past that point, you have to open up your hip to go further than that. That hip opening up on the back side of your body is released by your hamstrings. So your hamstrings are the muscles. Once you start to bend over, your hamstrings just don't lift up the back of your leg, your calf, as in doing a leg curl. We all know that, right? Doing leg curls, you're going to use a certain amount of hamstrings. However, that's not the primary function of the hamstring. The primary function is hip extension, throwing the leg back, as in running. Secondarily, bending over, it pulls you back up. So your hamstring, in conjunction with your glute and your lower back, your lumbar, the three of them work together. But that hamstring really has to stretch out when you go over in any way, shape, or form. So it makes sense, therefore, right? We want to have the loosest possible and strongest possible hamstrings to be able to do bent over rows, to be able to do deadlift, to be able to do even squatting, to prevent any injury to the lower back during squatting. So how do we go about doing that? Well, when you do stretch, and you should be stretching your hamstrings on a regular basis, when you do stretch your hamstrings, it's really important that when you go over, you maintain that lower back arch, maintain that lordosis as you stretch at the hip, just like I'm showing you now.
The first thing that you want to do is to get an object about as high as your hip to place your heel on. So I just took my preacher bench and I raised it up to my hip height. So now when I put my heel up onto it, I'm just parallel to the ground with my leg. And all I did was stand up straight, and then I leaned in with my chest stuck out, bending at the hip, just 2 or 3 inches. And I'm throwing my butt back towards the wall behind me. So you'll see when I release this, how I just lean back slightly, switch legs, I throw the other leg up there, chest stuck out, and I lean in just an inch or 2, and I'm emphasizing with my hand pressing into my lower back that my lower back is arched, and I'm holding my tummy in tight, and you hold that position for 20 or 30 seconds, and you could do it twice on both sides, leaning in a little further each time. Just be sure to choose the appropriate height to place your heel on for your level of flexibility and hip height.
And when you do that, you're going to maximally stretch your hamstring, and it'll actually prevent your lower back from overly rounding, and you'll get in the habit of using your hamstrings properly as well, with a little bit of an arch to your lower back. A little bit of a sexy back right there, I like to call it, when I'm training my clients. So, as you just saw, I just showed you how you can maintain that arch when you stretch, but also when you go over to do a bent over row.
This first one is today's standard of a bent over row with an under grip. My back is about 70 degrees to the ground. You can see it's arched tremendously. I'm not allowing my lower back to unlock. I'm moving a little bit from my hip and my hamstring just to let my body act like a shock absorber. And then I'm going to show you the second version here with an over grip and a little bit wider. It's the old school version of bent over rows where you go over even further to almost 90 degrees to the ground and keep that bar close to the legs. And again, I'm not letting the little arch to my lower back disappear. It's staying that way. With a little bit of hip movement, I'm protecting my lower back, but it's staying locked in place. It's very safe, and it's another great version of the bent over row right there.
Now that is how you do bent over rows and still maintain that little bit of an arch to your lower back. Of course you want to, and of course in your mind you think you're doing it, but the truth is if your hamstrings are not loose enough, you're going to round with your lower back, and that's going to be dangerous. That's going to open up your vertebrae to a lot of potential danger and a lot of potential pain for you in the future. Once you hurt that lower back, oh boy, once you hurt that lower back, if there's any medical profession that just really, I don't know, I think they just don't have the highest success rate of eradicating pain or fixing the spine, or the surrounding tissues, the soft tissue around the spine. It seems to me as if people who have had back problems go into orthopedics and once they're cut on, they just don't seem to be the same ever again. So the best thing we could do is prevent it. Prevent any lower back injury by having the loosest possible hamstrings. I mean, stretch those things daily. Do some good stretching daily. If you do that, then what else can you do? Well, we have the loose hamstrings, right? So secondarily, you can use really good form, purposefully, just as I just described. The second thing is, when you do deadlift, when you do bent over rows, when you do squatting, you maintain that perfect spinal column with that little bit of an arch, a little bit of a sexy back to that lower back, that lordosis. And if you do, you're going to maintain its strongest position. You can vertically load those discs quite a bit. I mean, over 1,000 pounds they can handle without being destroyed. So if you do that and maintain the posture you're supposed to have, you can load that spine up with quite a bit of weight and it won't get injured. That's never the problem, loading the spine when the spine's in correct position. That's what we want. So, loose hamstrings, perfect form, really good form. Thirdly, don't wait until there's an issue. Don't wait until you're in pain. To me, this is about the most foolish thing you could do. Having tight hamstrings, dang, I can't call you foolish. I know already there's a bunch of you listening to this right now that are saying, whew, hamstrings, too tight. And I don't want to make you feel bad for that. A lot of people in our population, in our society, have tight hamstrings. They just don't stretch them enough. And you need to. You really do. However, waiting until there's a problem, waiting until the pain is so great, waiting until you have no other choice and you've already gone to your medical doctor, you've already gone to your orthopedic, and you're left with no other choice. And you've already taken painkillers, you've already taken anti-inflammatories, and then you find yourself going to the specialist in the spine. Who's that? Well, your chiropractor. Look, I'll share this with you. My entire family, okay? 5 people in my family. My kids, from the time they were born right up until today. Myself, since I was a teenager, right up until today. We all get adjusted regularly. We go to a chiropractor. if you want to go to, if your transmission is broke on your car, do you take your car to a paint and body shop to get it fixed? Heck no. You're going to go to the transmission guy. So why in the world, if you know you're having back pain, if you know that there's something not right, even if it's the upper back or the neck, and you can't turn the head fully all of a sudden, you wake up that way, why are you going to go to your medical doctor who you know is going to A, either prescribe anti-inflammatories, B, tell you to take it easy, C, if he really senses that you need more help than what he can offer you, he's going to send you to an orthopedic. Orthopedic surgeons surgerize. I believe they have a place. I believe some of you guys listening right now are surgeons. And I believe God put great surgeons on the planet. I totally do. They have a purpose. You have a purpose. Just like myself as a trainer, I have a purpose. However, let's be clear. So do chiropractors. So let's not bash that industry right there. That's the one profession that I know of that when you walk into their office, you can be in a decent amount of pain, locked up, unable to touch your toes, and by the time you walk out that office, just minutes later after being adjusted, you miraculously can touch your toes, or you have way more range of motion, or you're pain-free. So that's the kind of results that I really like to see. Those are the kind of results that I think you should be seeking out too. So 3 things I mentioned. Number 1, when it comes to our backs, loose hamstrings. Keep those things loose. I've done videos on stretching. I've done videos on it. You need to get loose hamstrings. Number 2, use really great form in the gym. That one's self-explanatory, right? Poor form is going to open you up to complete danger. It's going to open you up to big problems. You don't want them. And then thirdly, when there's a problem, address it right away. I know some of you, you don't come from families you were never raised to believe in. You never had access to a good chiropractor. You've heard, fear-based stories about them. Man, I can't say enough. I really can't. I'm 54. I don't have lower back issues. I get adjusted regularly. My family, since the time my children were babies, have been adjusted regularly. That's how much trust I put into the chiropractic industry. So, cannot say enough about it. So that's it for today. Giving you some really good breakdowns of how we can take care of that lower back, how you can have a long life without pain, pain-free. That's what I'm after. That's what I want for you as well. From my heart to you, John Hart, thanks again for visiting. I really appreciate you stopping on by. Hey, before you leave, please, on the right-hand side down below, if you wouldn't mind, tap that subscribe button, that red subscribe button. It helps us out a lot over here. And then, on the other side, on your left, over here, there's a thumbs up button. Please, give it a thumbs up. Again, it really helps with the algorithm in YouTube and pumping up the videos and the viewership. Thank you very much.